this video, I am going to explain what there is to know about colors and how to be able to identify the different variations of them with colored pencils. This is absolutely necessary to grasp and understand to be able to pick and choose colors for your drawings on the fly. Additionally, later in the video, I show you how to create a color wheel to help you learn how to identify color differences, so be sure to stick around for that. Coming up after this. Want to learn how to draw wildlife and pets? Over on my Patreon, I offer 1 to 4 hour real-time step-by-step drawing tutorials for colored pencils and graphite. Each tutorial comes with a color sheet to help you choose colors, a high-resolution royalty-free reference photo, a materials list, and a clear voiceover with tips and explanations of the drawing process. By signing up for the student tier, you get instant access to a growing library of a variety of video tutorials and 2 new videos each month, as well as many other perks. Okay, so the first thing you should understand about colors is that there are colors and shades. Black and white are shades, not colors. Colors are what's called hues, and normally shades of grays are shades as well and not colors, but in the colored pencil world, grays actually have pigments of color in them, hence why they are called warm or cold by some colored pencil brands with the name of the colors that they put on the barrel of their pencils. The term warm and cold refers to warm colors that make you feel warm and cold colors that make you feel cold. Warm colors are reds, oranges, and yellows, whereas cold colors are blues, greens, and purples. Colors are influenced by the amount of different pigments that are put into them. A color may be more orange if it has a higher concentration of red in it as opposed to yellow, and it would be more yellow if it has less red in it. This is easier to see on the more obvious colors like reds and yellows, but a little harder to tell the differences with browns and purples and grays. And with the browns, this is because usually there are, at the very minimum, 3 pigments going into them. I'm not a colored pencil manufacturer, so don't quote me on that, but in order to make browns as just a color, usually it requires 3 or more colors, a mix of different shades of reds, yellows, and purples and blues. I'm going to line up my colored pencils and go over the color differences between them. Usually I always keep my colored pencils lined up in the tray of my drafting table so that I can see the different color variations in order, and this allows me to scan through them and select what I'm looking for as I am working on my drawings. I start from one end and look for an example which of my blues has a purple hue to it. I know that color has a hint of red in it, but isn't completely purple and is the one that I want to use, or I think I want to use, I should say. Guessing colors on the fly is still a trial and error process, and so sometimes I have to test the color on a sheet of scrap paper to make sure it's going to be the color I'm looking for. If it isn't, then I determine if it had too much red or blue, and say if it had too much red, then I want to go for the one closest to it that has less red. As I've said before, it is much easier to learn how to draw with colored pencils using only one set and not pencils from multiple sets. This allows you to get familiar with your colors in your set, and you can run off of memory for what you need instead of being confused between lots of different options. With these browns here, the lowest one on the bottom, which is the brown ochre, that is sort of a yellow color in the brown, more yellow than red colors in this. The next one is going to be the raw umber, and with the raw umber, that is kind of more of the brown ochre color, but taken off some of the color saturation. So it looks quite similar, but there's less color. Now when it comes to the burnt ochre that you see in the kind of middle area, that looks a lot more orange than the other colors. So what's going on with the burnt ochre is that between that and the brown ochre, there is a lot more yellow and red added to it. Then when you go to compare the burnt sienna is of course a darker color than the burnt ochre, not by a whole lot, but just a little bit. And the burnt sienna has a lot more red in it than the burnt ochre does. The burnt sienna doesn't have very much yellow in it at all. Now we go up to the Van Dyke brown, And the Van Dyke Brown and the Walnut Brown are actually really, really close in color. And on this camera, you can't quite see it, but it makes it almost look like the pencil part, the lead part of the Van Dyke Brown is darker than the Walnut Brown, which really isn't the case. So with the Van Dyke Brown and the Walnut Brown, there's only just a slight difference in shade with them. So the Van Dyke Brown is a little bit lighter and the Walnut Brown is a little bit darker, and I would say it's got a little bit less pigment in it. So when I'm drawing, I usually go for the Walnut Brown as my choice of brown to use with virtually most of my work, because it's a darker brown color that gives me those really great shadows to start adding in to create depth before I add in other colors. And then but it's lacking in the pigments, so it doesn't have as much reds and yellows in it as Van Dyke Brown does. Van Dyke Brown is a little bit more on the saturated spectrum, not by much, just a teeny bit of the colors that are in the colored pencil. Now I'll kind of explain what it is between the warm and cool grays. So I've got my grays from my set lined up here. This is the 60 set. There is the Cold Gray 4, which is the darker cold gray, and what cold gray is going to have is your blues. So there's a little bit of red in there too. So you could say it's kind of a purpley color as well as blue. And that is the difference between your cold grays and your warm grays that you just saw me pick up are going to have sort of a yellow-red color to them. So instead of blue, there's yellow and red, and it's the warmer spectrum. And as you draw with your warm grays, what you're going to notice is they kind of look like a really, really pale brown. Now I will show you how to make a color wheel to help you in learning the differences of your colored pencil colors. This is just a basic color wheel using the colors from my Faber-Castell colored pencil set. You can create more tiers with yours by making a larger one if you would like, where you would divide some of your colors off by their shade or how light or dark they are, as well as put them in the red, yellow, or blue section they belong in. To do that, you would want to draw some additional rings in the center to divide off light, medium, and dark shades of colors. And this is why it would need to be bigger than what I'm drawing, because I don't have enough room on my piece of paper to incorporate the different shades of the colors as well. Now, it is important to note that when making your color wheel, you should probably make a draft on scratch paper first to get your design out, as well as write down all of your colors where you want them to go, so you don't have to erase any mistakes on your final wheel. First, you want to write out your colors around the circle. Organize your colors by how much red, yellow, or blue they have in them. Then you want to fill in your colors to match where you wrote them down. Lastly, you want to put your gray and brown colors in the center and in the same line of where they fall on the color spectrum. So cold gray colors will be between the blue and red, and warm gray colors will be between the red and yellow. If you would like to learn more colored pencil tips, you should watch the top right video, or you might be more interested in watching the video YouTube suggests for you on the bottom right. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date on the latest artworks and happenings of my studio. Links are in the description. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.